All right, how we doing, everyone? Friday's morning briefing from the Celtic Way. Ryan's here. Hello, Ryan. How are things?
All good. How are you?
I'm good. You're kind of the ever-present over the summer because I've been away. Obviously, we only get to see Kevin once a week. Tony's been away, but you're kind of holding the fort.
Until next week, yeah. Next Friday will be my last. I'm going to the Celtic Air game as well, so I might do a wee video during
Oh,
that
cool.
game as well, or after that game. But then I'll be away to Tenerife. So I've been holding the fort for long, all through the summer, and then I'll have about 12 days in which I'm not on the podcast. But I'm looking forward to that.
Have you ever been to Somerset Park?
I have not, no,
Yes.
but I'm going because of the new
Yeah,
that new stand is opening up.
it's a great.
You're
it's
not
a
going
great
for
wee
Celtic, are you, Ryan? No,
No,
not the chance to
nah.
see Celtic. Is it just the new
Still
stand?
taking a
at Ayr?
break. Still taking a break, Hamish, from Celtic and all of that. Yeah, I'm
Well,
just going because the stand's opening.
It's a great wee ground.
Yeah.
If you've got a couple of minutes, you should go onto YouTube and see the time when Johnny Doyle was sent off in 75 or 76. He attempted to cross the ball into the penalty area and it hit the referee full in the face. The referee gets up and gives him a red card. Unbelievable.
I think I've seen that video.
It's mental. Anyway, sorry.
Wow. No, it's a cracking old ground, isn't it? Ayr United are my local team. A lot of people know I'm based in Prestwick, so I've been throughout my childhood, and it's not a particularly modern ground, but it seems like they're, as a club, Ayr United are modernising. I think they've got some good people in there. Obviously, Scott Brown is their manager as well.
Aidan
McGeady's he's in a role there. Is it Graham Mathy that was at Hibs? That's quite highly thought of, is in a big role there. So hopefully they can kind of fire forward. I'm looking forward to next Friday. I'm going as well. It'll be my one and only Celtic game of the season until I head back to Australia. So it'll be good. Kevin, how are things?
Aye, good. Yeah, I mean, kind of enjoying the Euros, you know.
Yeah.
Minus the anxiety of watching Scotland and what might be or what might have been. I can just relax, put my feet up, and enjoy the football.
Yeah, knockout start tomorrow, don't they? So there's going to be some big games. Listen, guys, there was some sad news yesterday that you'll no doubt have caught, that our former midfielder Landry Nguemo has died at the age of 38 in his homeland Cameroon. He played one season for Celtic. People will remember it as the Tony Mowbray season. So just some really kind of sad news. I mean, 38 is incredibly young. I guess he would only have retired a couple of years ago, and it only seems like a couple of years since he was playing for Celtic, right?
Yeah, and I thought he was a bright spark or a bright spot in a really, really tough season for Celtic, both on and off the park. He came on loan. I think it was from a French club. Was it Nancy?
I want to say Nancy. Yeah, that's what I want to
Yeah,
say. Or that might have been Fortuny. I'm not sure.
But he came on loan and he had the perfect attitude. He dug in and really tried in a season that was ultimately an absolute failure for Celtic, for Tony Mowbray. And then when Neil Lennon came in, he obviously got put out against Ross County. So it was a really tough season for everybody involved. 38 is no age to pass away, and I send out my condolences to his family and friends. You know, I was looking at his Instagram yesterday, and he was fully active on that, and it's quite almost haunting to see him, you know, so, you know, there, and now he's not, just all of a sudden. It's such a shame. Condolences to his family and friends at this really sad time, and hopefully his family are okay at this, or as okay as they can be at this point.
I guess it's just a reminder, if we ever needed it, Kevin, of, you know, how quickly life can be over, and how sad these situations can be.
Okay, it's just when you see somebody, you know, young, vibrant, talented, just cut down. I think it was a car accident, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
Such a shame. Yeah, my feelings go out to his family. You can never really kind of, I know the media likes to use phrases like, you know, coming to terms with the death of somebody, but you don't ever really come to terms with something like that. You just kind of have to deal with it and be given the space to. But I endorse what Ryan said that season. I went to quite a few games that season, and I think Mowbray's sacking happened after we were hammered 4-0 at Love Street by St Mirren. But long before that, the writing was on the wall. But he was good. And he did. He looked as if he showed the right attitude. He had a bit of skill, a bit of dig, and the fans liked him because that was a season when we weren't. There were too many players who just didn't look interested enough. Some with a kind of a so-called Celtic background, but he seemed to give it all, as far as I could see. Yeah. God rest him. God rest him.
Indeed, Landry Nguemo, who passed away 38 years old yesterday. Just moving on, we've got some things to chat about today. Some comments from John Kennedy yesterday. The team were back at Lennoxtown as well, guys, which is always nice to see. First of all, thanks to MPH Boilers and Weissman for sponsoring this video and every video at the moment. You'll get the links you need to them in the description. Team are back at Lennoxtown. Not all of them. I think we've given our kind of international players some extra time off. Some of our international players are still on international duty. By the way, I saw USA had lost to Panama last night, so they're having a bit of a nightmare of a time in their home tournament. Alistair Johnson obviously still with Canada. Ryan, what have their results been? They lost to Argentina.
They lost to Argentina, but I think they won against Peru. I might be right in saying, I believe. So, Canada are one of the better sides in the competition. It shows you that they're really an emerging nation. They've got Alphonso Davies, who's the captain and their sort of talisman, who plays more attacking than he does for Bayern Munich, if that is possible. He basically plays as a winger rather than a left back for the Canadian national team. But yes, they're dotted with some good players. Jonathan David as well, that's been linked with Manchester United in recent days. So yeah, he plays with some good players, and that was a good second result for them. Hopefully that they can get through to the latter stages, because they've got a really proud fan base. They're really proud of what they're achieving in football over the past couple of years. Remember the excitement when they were in the World Cup in Qatar, and they certainly, I know the results didn't go their way, but the performances that they put in, I think, enamoured quite a few people. So hopefully they get through to the latter stages. The same for the USA, although I don't think Carter Vickers has played that much. It's not as if he's a first team player compared to Alistair Johnson. Johnson's one of the first names on the team sheet, whereas the USA are still playing Tim Ream, who I think's 35 or 36.
He came on at half time last night, Carter Vickers.
So at least he did get some game time. But I think he's in this situation where the next international tournament will be the one that he starts every game, because Tim Ream, I think this will be his last tournament. He's still playing for Fulham at a good level, but he's 35, 36 now. Carter Vickers is at least 10 years younger than him, so I think they'll be looking at that for the future. Maybe a new manager will come in. There's been constant talks about Beerhalter, especially with all the stuff that was going on with Giovanni Reina a couple of years ago. So there's always a story with the USA national team. I'm just hoping that Carter Vickers can be a starter for maybe the next tournament, or maybe in the upcoming games.
Yeah, I should say, by the way, they did actually win their first game, the USA. I think I was getting mixed up with a warm-up they had, where I think they got battered from Ecuador or Colombia, and Carter Vickers had a bit of a stinker. But they've got 3 points, like Canada. Their next game's against Uruguay, so they've still got a chance of getting through there. And Steve McGrory pointing out that Timothy Weah was sent off last night after 20 minutes. And he says CCV came on for the second half for the US. Away from that, Kevin, as we say, Celtic back at Lennoxtown minus the international players. They put out a video, I don't know if you've seen it, but it was players arriving in their cars, and it just kind of reminded me of how many players we have that maybe aren't of the desired level at Celtic. There were a lot of players there that I forgot were even at the club.
Yeah. I was discussing this last night because every conversation you have with a Celtic supporter, or I've had in the last couple of weeks, there's been two topics. One, the abuse meted out by Scotland fans, or some Scotland fans, to Callum McGregor and Anthony Ralston, which took us back to unfortunate days in the 1970s, which is as a result of which quite a lot of Celtic fans, didn't really fall in love with Scotland. That was one topic. Second one was, when are we going to sign somebody? Everybody else, including our closest rivals, I think have signed 4 or 5 of uncertain quality, I should add. And the assumption amongst informed Celtic fans is that we must be going for a high quality player because Brendan's obviously waiting until the Euros are over. And I'm saying, if that were true, fair enough. But I mean, come on. I think it was you, Hamish, last Tuesday. No, yeah, last Tuesday, who said that was round about this time. At this time in the month of June, you would expect to see a goalkeeper at least, because the goalkeeping situation, the goalkeeping position is crucial, because he has to build a relationship with the people around him, have a feel for the club, the way we play. And that deadline is that you had set is come and gone. And, come on, we need to see somebody soon. And I think you'd said, Ryan, that you were talking about going to Somerset July the 5th, and we would have expected a keeper and at least one other to be in by around about then. Well, that's next week.
Yeah, it's not looking great in that hunt for a goalkeeper for that Somerset Park game. I don't think there will be. I think it'll be Scott Bain that's in goals, or maybe Toby Oluwayemi. I'm not sure about the current situation with following his loan from Admin Avaka, whether he's maybe seen as a first team option at this moment in time. I've not seen any pictures of him, so it'll be interesting to see if he does get a chance against Ayr United, or Josh Clark, who played the second half of last season at Ayr United. It'd be more familiar surroundings than any of the other players that would be at Celtic, because he's actually played at that level, at that park in the second half of the season.
It would be, I think one of you also pointed out that, as long as we've got somebody in that position by the time we go to America on tour, because that would be unforgivable to embark on that tour without a keeper.
I think it was me that made that comment about the deadline for a goalkeeper coming in. I seem to remember saying something similar or along those lines. I just think that you start as you mean to go on with transfers, and just for optics as much as anything else, you need to get a goalkeeper, because it does set a strong foundation. We've seen how not having a first choice or a quality goalkeeper in a season hampers the team as a whole, because the defence don't know who they're playing with game by game. You need to have that solidity. In the 2020-21 season, the season that shall not be named, but I'm going to name it anyway, there was 3 goalkeepers that played, and the defence played like a team that didn't know who their goalkeeper was. There was confusion every game because they were all different. Some of them weren't vocal, others were maybe too vocal, and then the other one was a youngster that was just coming through, in Connor Hazard, who had mistakes in his game as well, who's by all accounts doing a really good job at Plymouth at the moment, so fair play to him. They just need a goalkeeper, whoever that may be. I don't think Begovic is the answer. I've seen Begovic being mentioned in the comments. He is 2 months younger than Joe Hart, who has left the club. I think that's a non-starter. What is the point in bringing in a 37-year-old who's going to retire in a year or two, and you're going to be in the same position again? I think they need to be at least 5-6 years younger. Not to be ageist, but I just think in terms of what Celtic are looking for, both domestically and in the Champions League, they're going to need to find somebody in that 27 to 32 ballpark, in my opinion, that's going to be there for the next 3-4 years for that solidity to take place in the defence.
So I'm trying to work out and avoid shouting any obvious answers at me, but I'm trying to work out why Celtic haven't signed a goalkeeper so far. I mean, is it the club being unprepared for this, given, Joe Hart left the club 3 or 4, or announced he was leaving the club probably 3 months ago at this stage? Is it that we are looking at someone who's still currently playing in the Euros and we're unable to complete a deal until they exit the tournament? Now, we've been linked with a hell of a lot of goalkeepers playing at the Euros. Off the top of my head, I know that some of them have been shot down, but the Belgian keeper Casteels, the Turkish goalkeeper, there's I think 3 or 4 other ones from various other countries. Dubravka. I think there was a group on the other night, and like 3 out of the 4 goalkeepers playing at the same time had all been linked to us this summer. So it could be something linked to that. But I agree, guys. This is one you want to get in early, because we've seen how even last season, where the goalkeeper wasn't the issue, you've seen what happens when you have uncertainty at the back line with injuries, and let's face it, no other really good centre-back to partner Carter Vickers. The team kind of struggled when that happened, and it was no coincidence that when we got consistency at the back, that's when things started to click, or consistency throughout the team. So, I mean, have you got any thoughts on that, Kevin, why we might not have seen a player signed yet in that position?
I've got to hope that we're one of those international keepers at the Euros that we've been linked with is a serious target, and that's the reason why there's been a delay. There's no other justification, because we've known since February that Joe Hart wasn't going to be here. Mm-hmm. That's what, 4.5 months ago. No excuse beyond that. We are waiting for confirmation once the Euros finish. And as I've said before, we've been here often, and Brendan Rodgers, we assumed, and he hinted at this himself, that he wasn't if he had endorsed those signings when he came last season, he made it pretty clear not long after it, that none of them, certainly none of the defenders, were required. And we then went to effectively our 4th choice, Liam Scales, who did well, and we finished the season with him. We got the double. So I'm just assuming that's the reason. I can't imagine that Brendan Rodgers, given reading between the lines of what he said before, would put up with a situation where he's identified targets, and the board have been shilly-shallying and watching the pennies over it. I think, as we previously said, that there was hints of that led possibly led to his early departure the first time round, and I just don't. I think we all assumed that he's got more power this time, and much more influence in who we sign and what sort of money we pay for them. And let's face it, we've never had as much money in the bank as we have at the moment.
Yeah. There were some comments from John Kennedy yesterday. He gave an interview to Sky Sports from Lennoxtown, and he was asked directly about the goalkeeper situation. Where are we? He said the club are working hard on that. Some targets have been identified, and we've been working in the background. It's a key position for us. We know it's a position we need to get in, and we want to do that as soon as we can. Hopefully in the coming weeks we can have some news on that. I mean, there's nothing major there, Ryan. That's kind of what you'd expect him to say. He was also asked about Adamida and Paulo Bernardo, by the way. When was the last time you heard those names? Like, it's gone very quiet on those two after being very, very lively at the start of the window. He said, there's a lot of conversations happening. It's a time when a lot of players have been on holiday and different things have been happening. Hopefully in the coming weeks, a few things will start to happen, but there's a lot of plates spinning, a lot of work being done. So, Ryan, he mentioned the coming weeks in both of those responses there.
Yeah, very political answers, which are, in good timing, considering there's an election coming up. He'd be quite a good politician in that regard, because he didn't really answer the questions specifically about those players. He just gave a generalised answer on them. There's things happening. There's discussions happening in the background. Basically, watch this space over the coming weeks. And the goalkeeping position, sorry to go back to it, but they said as quickly as they can. If they were going as quickly as they can, then there would be a goalkeeper currently in place. So I think they're overdue when it comes to a new goalkeeper coming in. I get that there's players at the Euros that are concentrating on their nations, but this can work through agents as well. Agents can sort their next moves. I know that some goalkeepers will be hedging their bets and getting ready for maybe getting the best move possible after a good Euros, but at the same time, Celtic are in a good position. It's not about selling the club to these players as well. It's a great opportunity for whatever one of these goalkeepers gets the role, because it's not as if Joe Hart's there anymore. That position is free. It's completely vacant. If a new goalkeeper gets signed, you are instantly the number one. You're going to get game time. You're also going to get game time in the Champions League, Scottish Cup, Scottish League Cup, Scottish Premiership. You're going to get game time, and that should be an exciting prospect for any goalkeeper coming through. So I think that position's overdue. In terms of Paulo Bernardo and Ademida, yes, it has gone quiet, and I don't know if that's concerning or not. I mean, the only update that we got from Paulo Bernardo was the fact that Celtic were unwilling. This was from Portugal, so I don't know how true the rumours are, although you would expect them to have some sort of validity if they're coming from Benfica's side, that Celtic weren't up for spending the 20k after tax a week on Bernardo, which, if that is the case, then that's disappointing, because they'll have known what his wages were beforehand, and then they've chosen not to go through with it, because that would have been in the option to buy all of that as well. Ademida's gone quiet as well. It's one of those ones where if this rolls on longer into the summer, then my interest in the player wanes, unfortunately, because I would want him to come in just now for a full pre-season rather than coming in the middle of July, start of August, and rushing him in.
Probably in holiday, isn't he? He'd probably be in holiday because he was playing with Ireland, wasn't he? So that might be why the Ademida stuff. And I'm guessing the new Norwich manager will want a look at him.
He said that himself. He actually came out himself and said that he wants to work with Ademida and look at him in pre-season before making any decision on any player. So maybe that one has more legs in it and you have to be a bit more patient. But, it's that 37 days until the league campaign starts. As I said yesterday, that number will go down very quickly. It'll go down to 20, 10, then it'll be single figures. You're just hoping that Celtic are ready for that opening game when it does come against Kilmarnock.
Yeah, a couple of people mentioning early days. Big Dom saying the signing delays are usually linked with player availability and wage negotiations. Early days. Blake saying, understanding that there is still 2 months left of the transfer window, so be calm about transfers. The board knew positions needing replaced months ago, so expecting something to happen. I think that kind of sums up, where I'm at as well. Like it is still early in the window. I mean, the window's only been open a couple of weeks. It's still got over 2 months to run. I think if the board and the recruitment team had more kind of goodwill built up, you'd be inclined to kind of sit here and go, okay, I'd rather they took their time to get it right. The bottom line here is that the Celtic recruitment team and the board, whatever you want to say, don't have any goodwill built up, because the last couple of windows have been extremely poor, and they've been like this at the start. So you can't help, as a fan, call it pessimistic or whatever, overly dramatic. You can't help but feel, Kevin, that things are just a little bit slow. But as a couple of people say, we do still have plenty of time to get players in, and these things can happen quickly as well.
Well, I don't really buy that we've got plenty of time, because when the window shuts is a lot later than when the season starts. Yeah. And as far as I'm concerned, my transfer window is for the start of August and the start of the season. I want to see significant players in before our first league game of the season. It's as simple as that. And I certainly think it would be unacceptable to be going on an American tour without a goalkeeper and without at least one other, big signing.
Do you think we will have that in for the States? Two players. What is that, a couple of weeks away?
Yeah, I know John Kennedy was being political He's very smart, John Kennedy. I think if we were on the verge of something very soon, he's smart enough to have dropped a hint without giving anything away. And again, you're talking about a bank of goodwill. There's nothing in that bank because of the way that our complacency over several seasons. And I'm beginning to get, I'm beginning to get a chill. I hope I'm wrong. These things there could be an announcement tomorrow. Yeah. It's the 28th of June. So a week tomorrow we play at United. Then not long after that we go to the States. I've just been here before. Sorry. But as far as I'm concerned, my transfer window, I'm looking at 3 players, and we know the key positions we need strengthened in. I want 3 players in before our first game of the season. The fixture list is already out. I don't want to be signing players, significant players, after 2 or 3 games of the season. It puts out the wrong message. We've known, for God's sake, we've known for more than 6-7 months the positions that need strengthened.
No, yeah, left back we've known for. Yeah, with all due respect to Greg Taylor, who's done really well, I think we've known we've needed another left back for the last 2 windows at least, and no one's been signed. Where are you, Ryan, on the kind of scale of very relaxed to very worried?
I'm still relaxed, but I'm concerned at the same time. I've got that. Just the relaxed because there's no games for the next month or so. Yes, there's pre-season games, and in an ideal world, there would be players in for those games. I still want them. I agree with Kevin completely that I want them in for the USA tour. You don't want to be in that position where, well, to be fair, they're going to be in the USA for quite a bit of time. So I would expect if a signing was to happen while they were away there, then there would be the travel to the USA and maybe get that excitement of players travelling to the USA and then making their debut for Celtic while they're in America. I don't know if that would maybe be a good thing commercially as well, having the sort of spotlight on these players and more of a reason to watch, at the silly times of night is what it's going to be. Although I think there's only one game that's on. One game's on at 12:30. Well, it'd be
2 are on at 12:30. One's on at 9.
9 against Manchester City. So they're not that bad. They're not awful times, not as bad as the ones that you have to watch, Hamish, when you're in Australia in terms of timing. But I'm just hoping that they know the positions that they have to improve in. And if Brendan Rodgers is as good as we all think that he is in terms of spotting where there's weakness in the side, then he'll have made it abundantly clear to the hierarchy and those in charge of the finances that these positions have got to be improved upon for next season. Left back's there, I think centre back's there. Goalkeeper certainly there. There needs to be a goalkeeper because it can't be Scott Bain that's number 1. Midfielders, and then there's players that they're just not going to cut the mustard, so they have to go, and you have to sign potentially replacements for them or project players that can actually come through and make a difference. Then there's players that are maybe on the fence. Do they maybe need a loan deal? Are they going to get better in their second season? There's a lot to digest in this Celtic team at the moment, and maybe that's why they're taking so long. They're deciding who's staying and who's going, and then once they've got that sort of map of where the squad is, then they'll start attacking in certain positions or going for certain positions in the transfer market. They need a striker as well, at this moment in time with O back in training, although it looks as if he'll probably go to Genk. There'll be only one striker at the club. There needs to be 1, maybe even 2 brought in. So there's areas that need to be improved. You're just hoping that Celtic realise that and Celtic are willing to spend some of that money that they've got, because we all know that they've got a lot of money. So it's time for them to put their money where their mouth is, basically, and make that team stronger ahead of what's going to be a very long and congested season in all competitions.
And listen, the Celtic support have put their money where their mouth is again. The club announced yesterday that season tickets have sold out again. It's not really a surprise at this stage, but it's just more evidence of the club, the fans back in the club, and we just want to see our ambition met by them. Got a few more comments I want to go through before we go. Joe Hume saying this is the first transfer window they won't get away with dragging their heels. The fans in the stadium were very vocal in January and February. Again, I think the fact that we are only on June the 28th and people are getting very kind of frustrated shows where we've been in recent years, and they need to get players in. Blake, seeing Angus Gunn being a favourite. If we sign Angus Gunn, I fear for us. I'm not a fan of Angus Gunn, I must say. But hey ho. Joe Allen is bringing up Lucas Jensen at Lincoln City. He knows the team he plays for would rile and frustrate a lot of Celtic fans, but he is decent. Steve McGrory, Steve, you're very keen. Team versus Ayr United. He's doing our job for us, or doing your job for you, Ryan. Bain, Iwata, Welsh, Narotsky, Montgomery, Kwon, Kelly, O'Reilly, Kuhn, Kyogo, Yang. Someone else pointed out O'Reilly wasn't there yesterday. I didn't actually see Matt O'Reilly, and I'm kind of wondering why he wouldn't be there. Although
he was in the international squad before he was cut, so he'll probably have an extended holiday. Let's not get too worried.
To Germany, did he?
No, I don't think so. But I know there was a picture on his Instagram of him in a warm place. So he's currently on holiday at the moment.
Yeah. Any final comments, Kevin, before we head off?
Yeah, I'm going to take a wee very quick dip back into history. Before our greatest ever season, 66-67, Celtic went on an extended 11-game tour of North America. And if you asked any of the Lisbon Lions, about the seeds of our success that season, every single one of them mentioned the togetherness and the sense of purpose that was forged on that trip to America. We're not playing 11 games or anything like it, but it's, as Ryan said, we're spending a bit of time there. And if we go there without any significant new players, it causes uncertainty amongst the group, because, friendships and alliances, get embedded in these trips, they get forged in these trips. And if there's no new players there, participating in that process, and players who might not know whether they're going to be first choice the next season or not, they come back and then like a week later somebody comes in, this guy's out, the kind of sympathy and the friendship they built up on tour, living at very close quarters with their mates. It's not great for team spirit, psychologically, emotionally, call it what you will. Not great. And as I said, it would be unacceptable, and it would betray a complete lack of professionalism bordering on amateurism.
Yeah,
that's what I'm going to. I'm not going to say anything more about it, and just hope.
Let's hope that, as we say, we could get a report very soon, and then it could. As I say, I think you kind of know when you see the report. So hopefully, something's in the offing. As we say, the John Kennedy comments tell me that might not be the case imminently, but we'll wait and see. Ryan, did you have something to say?
Yeah, I just want to bring up that player that Celtic have been linked with this morning. BK Harkins, midfielder. Pontus Dabo, who's only 18 years old. He's 6'1". He's a midfielder, central midfielder. It's the same sort of move as Odin Thiago Holm was, around about the same time of the season, bringing in a player from Scandinavia. One of the first signings of the transfer window, if it was to go through. But 18 years old, if you're 18 and you're playing games in Scandinavia for your first team, then you must have something about you. I remember the last player that was signed round about that age was Christopher Ayer, who made his debut, at the age of 16. I think he was the captain as well at the age of 16, 17 for Start in Norway.
Yep.
These are the talents that, people talk about projects, but some projects are worth pursuing if they're 18 years old and they're already showing signs of quality. And this is the time to be signing players like that before they're unavailable to Celtic because of rising transfer fees. if these players are available, then I'm all for this. Goal scoring midfielder playing for Häcken, who are one of the most forward thinking teams in Scandinavia at the moment. I remember, I think it was it Aberdeen that played against them?
Yeah, they battered them.
And yeah, they were absolutely incredible. I remember one guy in particular who went to AZ Alkmaar was incredible in that game. One of those games that I was thinking, if you weren't linked to AZ Alkmaar and it wasn't happening, like basically the next day, I would be wanting Celtic to make a late move for him. He was that good. He was that much of a standout. But yeah, Häcken, good side. If he's making appearances for them at the age of 18, then that's definitely something to keep an eye on. I'm going to try and dig into that one a bit more today, I think, and see what people are saying about him.
The report came from a Swedish outlet, Football Direct, and it mentions, I think, up to 60 million Swedish kronen, is that right? Which I think is £4.5 million. So it seems like a larger fee than it would be for Odin Thiago Holm, and he seems to be very highly rated. So yeah, one to keep an eye on. Right, okay, guys, have a good weekend. Enjoy yourself. Your final weekend without Celtic, That's a positive thought. From next weekend, we'll have games to talk about, and we will return on Monday, everyone. So speak to you then.
Cheers, guys.
Bye.